Reddit, what rude act have you witnessed that left you completely flabbergasted? So, I was standing on an underground Victoria line when this heavily pregnant woman got on. She looked pale, and even worse when she saw that seats allocated to elderly, disabled or pregnant people were taken by young bankers. Can anyone give me a seat please? No answer. Please, I'm not feeling well. Can I have someone's seat? Ignored. I will give someone £5 for a seat. Some Tarquin Fauntleroy stood up, took the fiver and put it in his designer wallet and got off at the next stop. In Cambridge, about 1976, I was reading the paper, and some fellow sat down at my table. I began to eat my packet of cookies, but he also joined in, eating my cookies without so much as a hello. There he sat, eating my cookies, while obliviously doing the crossword. Once the packet was finished, I boarded my train, and saw the bastard begin to eat his own pack. Damn rude British people. Bet he was an atheist too. When I was in high school I was leaving a Phillies game. There was an adorable elderly man hobbling by, with a very large, signed picture of one of the players. Some guy pushed him to the ground and took it, and ran. The elderly man was screaming. The thief turned around while running away and ran straight into a police officer. Instant karma. I was at Home Depot when a disabled Vietnam veteran entered the store and slowly hobbled over to the electric scooters. This man was wearing a veteran's vest with patches/badges, a veteran's hat, and had a cane since he was old and disabled from the war. A huge fat chick comes in behind him, sees him going for the last electric scooter, waddles to it faster than him and takes it from him. I, as well as him, were in shock. I was riding a busy train just a few days ago, and was in a carriage where there were very few seats available. The train stopped at a station, and a group of 20 or so kids on a school trip got on. They were around 15 years old or so. They were all standing and behaving absolutely impeccable, no rowdiness or shouting or bad language at all. A few stops later, some people got off and 2 places to sit became available. As one of the school children went to sit down, as she did so, she accidentally bumped the leg of an older lady. Immediately the lady raised her voice, and in a really mean way said, "You just knocked my legs, they're very painful and blister easily." The girl apologized right away by saying, "Sorry," to which the lady responded in an even more mean voice with a, "You will be," threat. Threatening a young girl because she accidentally knocked your leg on public transport, and then immediately apologized. That's slow and completely uncalled for. I kind of wish I'd spoken up and called her out on it. Was going through a McDonald's drive-thru, at the final window waiting for my food. This retard behind me is getting impatient, and getting close to my car and revving his engine. It's like, what the duck? I'm not leaving till I get my ducking food, you inbred duck. One time me and my family all went to eat at Luby's. We had a large table, and then a smaller table near the line where my uncle sat. There was a little pane of glass separating the line from the dining room. My uncle had just snagged a piece of delicious cake, but decided to go use the restroom, leaving his cake unattended. A guy in the line reached through the line to grab my uncle's cake. My grandma screamed at the top of her lungs, "What the duck are you doing?" The whole restaurant went silent, and everyone was staring at this dude holding my uncle's piece of cake. He said, "Well, no one was here." And my grandma screamed again, "That's our food, we paid for it." Ducking rude. The guy kinda shrunk away into the line, too embarrassed to say anything else. It was awesome. About a year ago, I was sitting in my car at a red light, and there was a homeless dude on the corner holding a cardboard sign. A guy a couple of cars ahead of me rolled down his window and held some money outside of his car, signaling the dude over. When the guy walked up to the car's window, the driver took an ashtray full of ashes and cigarette butts and threw it in the homeless guy's face, right as the light turned green and he sped off. Dorm life for my first year of college routinely left me flabbergasted. Girls leaving their used tampons on shower stall ledges. Walked into the laundry room to see someone puking on someone's laundry basket, not mine. Thank God. They told me, oh well, someone else's problem. Asked next door neighbors to turn down their music at 4 AM on the day of an exam. They came over and peed on my door after turning the music up higher. I was in Supercuts waiting to get a mediocre haircut. These twins were running around throwing a miniature skateboard, the kind you use for your fingers. Their mother was getting a haircut, so nobody was attending to these kids. They throw it at a big glass window, trying to break it. Then they throw it at the ceiling, as I wait for it to hit me in the head. The mother yells, "Leave that man alone." One of the kids yells back, "That's not a man." Exactly as he says that, his skateboard gets stuck in the ceiling. The kid look at me, he wants me to get it. I'm about 6 feet tall, and I could reach it if I wanted. I send back a tremendous grin because his mom's haircut is done, and she's now dragging the kids out to the car. They are in the car now, looking at me. I stand up on the seat, take the skateboard, and put it in my pocket. I see kid number 2 start to cry as they drive away. I guess I'm the troll in this story. This seems like such a small thing, but I thought it terribly rude. We have coffee stations on each floor. A co-worker from the 3rd floor went to get coffee from his floor and realized that someone needed to make more, because it was out. The supplies are all right there. It's not hard. Dump filter, rinse, put in new filter and coffee, slide that puppy back into the machine and hit the start button. Enjoy fresh brewed caribou coffee within 5 minutes or less. Instead of making new for his floor, he walks up to the 4th floor, announces that there was no more coffee on the 3rd, proceeds to empty the 4th floor's coffee and then leaves, without making more, as we are all standing around trying to get coffee. I was fuming. It's just rude. It took me 30 seconds to get more brewing, but still. Just make the damned coffee if you're going to drink it. We've got the same setup, only I see people walk up the coffee maker, cup in hand, only to see that they will empty it when they pour it, so they walk away. I don't mind making coffee, prefer it sometimes. There are a few people who don't realize that a 12-cup coffee maker requires more than 1 scoop of grounds, so I'll whip up a pot and go back to my desk while it brews. I get back, and the damned pot is right back where it was 5 minutes ago, as all of the office vultures swooped in and grabbed it while they wouldn't have to make another pot, including the one who had just walked away. So I fill my cup and make another pot, yay. That one. And people hate to refill ice cube trays. We have a cube bin that you can dump them into, but time and time again I see a cube tray with 90% of the cubes gone. People grab 1 or 2 out of a tray, instead of dumping the whole thing into the bin. That way they don't have to refill it. This habit is so common that whenever someone sees me refilling the ice cube tray, they comment about how amazing it is that someone is doing that. Walking into a McDonald's. See a cute girl in front of me walking with her friend. A woman is begging next to the door and as we pass, she says loudly, "Ah, I hate poor people." Seriously, who says that? I was in Las Vegas, wandering around the Venetian, where they have people acting as human statues. This one statue had a very impressive collection of tips at his feet, and I saw this man walk up to the statue, eye it up and down, then take the money off the ground and walk away. I was absolutely stunned. My one friend went to hunt down security while I went after the thief. I caught up to him and said, "Hey, you do realize that was not a real statue with free money sitting there, that's a guy acting, and those are his tips." He looked at me for a second and said, "Well, does he want it back?" I said of course, and he said, "Oh well, thanks for telling me." Then he turned and walked away with the money. I went back to the statue and told him the guy left with the cash and I couldn't get it back. I gave him $10. The statue gave me a slow thumbs up. One time, I was unloading things from my car to a location that was less than 10 feet away. I couldn't hold it all for one trip, so I stuck the box of donuts I was carrying on the roof of my car, walked across the street, a residential one, and put what I was carrying down just inside the door. I didn't even go inside. When I turned around, a car had pulled up alongside mine, and a lady had stepped out of the passenger car and was getting the donuts off the roof of my car, obviously trying to steal them. I shouted, "Hey hey hey." She looked at me and at the driver of her car, and put the donuts back. I was ducking, flabbergasted that someone would do that, but happy that I got to keep my donuts. I stood behind this behemoth of a woman at Subway. She was absolutely puzzled as to why only some of the footlongs were $5. It was clearly advertised, but she continued. During the topping of her sub, she was impolitely asking for more than what the guy was putting on there. She started to rage on the guy when he politely explained he was being generous by the company standard. In the end, she didn't pay for the sub that had been prepared, and demanded the manager's name. He was the manager. Then she demanded the owner. He gladly provided it. In the end, I suggested to her she should have eaten the 6-inch sub anyhow. I also filmed the whole thing on my phone and vouched for the guy. I told him I'd vouch for him to his boss as well. Well, she went ducking ballistic at this point, and chucked the sub across the store. The cops were called, and I got my sub and left. The guy thanked me a week later with a free sub. Woot. This morning, on the light rail, a terrible heavy-set, overweight woman was sitting in the seating designated for handicapped, pregnant, elder people, etc. A few passengers were helping a blind man with a seeing eye dog get on the train as he wasn't sure if his was the right one. They led him to the seating area, and the woman just looked up at everyone, laughed, and continued reading her shitty book. So ducking terrible. I was at Walmart one day, and there was a lady with an unruly 2-year-old. Mom was ignoring the kid while stocking up on duck-in snack cakes. I end up with her behind me in the checkout line, where when I dropped a bunch of small change on the floor, this kid dove for it. It wasn't so much the actions of the kid that bothered me, it was that the mother was completely oblivious. No apology, nothing. Bitch. You didn't kick the child off your change? Anything goes at Walmart. I worked at a supermarket when I was 15, and was always assigned to do cleanups. It was never much of a big deal, normally just some broken jars or whatever, but one time I was called back to the bathroom where I found that someone had taken a shit on the floor, and then decided to draw pictures on the wall in their own fesses. I had to literally mop the wall while holding my breath.